So we're going to be making a drawing app, and I want it to look something like this. Notice the curves are really curvy, something like that. It doesn't, shortcut it to polygons. It's nice and curved, and you can sign your name nicely. And like I'm doing this on the computer in the simulator, so it's not perfect, but it's pretty darn close. That's what I want to make, and I'll show you what we used to be able to do just by drawing straight lines. So if you notice here, it's a little bit polygony. When I draw quickly, it kind of is drawing line to line to line as opposed to curve. To make the app, we're going to go to File, we're going to go to New, and we're going to make a new project, and this is going to be a single view application. Next, then the product name, Drawing App, something like that. You can give it a name. You're drawing with it. The programming language is Swift, and we're not using core data. We're going to go to Next. Create. I'm putting it inside my apps folder, which is on my desktop. Into the view controller. I want to make a paint view. We're just going to go to File, New, File. We're going to be making a Cocoa Touch class. It's going to be a UI view, which is going to allow us to paint into that. Next. Scroll down and choose UI view and name your class Paint View. Click Next, Create, and it should appear right here. Okay, I'm just going to move it just underneath my view controller. A constant, so let, with lowercase paint view, so paint view and view, and it is going to be an instance of our paint view class. Paint view. Then into our paint view, it's a UI view. We can get rid of all of this comments. I'm going to make a image, so var draw image. That is going to be a UI image, open bracket, close bracket. Then we're going to make an array of sample points. We're going to be drawing into an image, and we're going to put our image on our paint view. We need to have a whole bunch of points that we're drawing onto. We're going to store these points instead of inside a variable. Like think of an array as a whole bunch of variables. If a variable is a box, imagine you have a cardboard box and it's got something in it. That's a variable. Like, it could have the number 3 in it, it could have the word cat in it, it could have an actual cat. A variable is a box that contains something. Now an array, it's like a box with a whole bunch of boxes in it, or like an egg carton. It's a box, but it's got like 12 little tiny containers inside it that you can put eggs into. So an array is like that. We're making an array that's going to hold all of our points. I'm going to call this sample points. So to make an array, we put a square bracket to tell that it's an array, and I'm going to say what type of thing we're going to put in there. So we're going to put in these things called CG points. Okay, they're going to hold the different points on the screen where we're going to be touching to make our drawing. There was an error up here. This should have been CG point, not CG points. Then we're going to make a path. Now the path is the path that we're actually tracing with our finger. To make it nice and smooth and curvy, we're going to make it a UI Bezier path, or Bezier path, with an open bracket, close bracket behind it. Then we're going to make another variable, which is going to tell us when we should clear the drawing. So var should clear, and I'm going to set that to false, because we shouldn't be clearing anything. Then we're going to initialize our drawing frame. I'm going to write init, and it should put an override in front of it, and it does. Good. Frame CG rect, and then open bracket, and then so we're going to put it super.init, like that. Inside here, I'm just going to put the word frame instead of CG rect. Oops. Like that. When the paint view gets initialized, we are initializing the frame, and then we're setting the background color of our frame to white. So background color is equal to .white. Then we're going to say what our path is going to look like. We're going to describe the line cap style is going to be round. So that's like when you get to the end of the line, like how does it end? Does it end with a solid big bar, or is it kind of rounded? We're going to be going with rounded. And then how do we join up lines? So path.join line join style right here, and that is also going to be round. And path line width. And we can play around with this a little bit, but I'm going to set mine to 3, like that. Then we have to initialize the screen, so we need this bit of code. So required init, that. Inside it, we're going to put our super init, like that. The coder is going to be our AD coder up here. Then, for the actual real coding, we're going to put in the touches began, like that. When we do that, it'll override it for us, which is nice. All of this is fine, and then we're going to go to the code. We're going to make a constant, let, and touch. It's going to tell this is our first touch. Touches dot first, and then unwrap that, and sample points dot append. The sample points are the points as we're making our drawing. We're getting all these points, so these are going into sample points. We're adding to those points where we're touching. So touch dot location within our paint view, so in self, like that. So that's our touches began, and then we want to sense when the touch is moved. There it is. That puts everything in that we need. We're going to put in the same thing. Let touch equals touches dot first unwrapped for coalesce touch. So what the coalesce touch does is your phone, it could be recording the touches 60 times a second. So 60 hertz means 60 times per second. And then some devices can record the touch information at 240 times. It's 4 times the amount. So we're getting 240 touch recordings per second. This takes advantage of that. The coalesce touch, it doesn't like something up here that I put in a CG point. Oh, I have points instead of point. There was an error up here. This should have been CG point, not CG points. For coalesced touch in event, unwrapped dot coalesce touches. For touch, and then we have to unwrap that, and then we have to unwrap the whole thing. Then we put our open brace bracket and our close brace bracket. And then the sample points dot append, very similar to what we did up there, but we're getting it from the coalesce touch. Coalesce touch dot location in, and then ourself. Then we tell our paint view that we need to update the view. To do that, we use a function called set needs display. And then we have to handle for touches ended. So touches ended right there. And then once we've ended the touch, we need to send all this to the image. So UI graphics begin image context with options. That's long. UI graphics get image. Nope. So I'm going to go with UI graphics. If I go to that, begin. It's going to be in here somewhere. Begin image context with, getting closer, just get rid of this, with options. There we are. Okay, so that's what we're after. The size is going to be bound size. Bounds, which is the bounds of our view. So bounds.size of our paint view, whether it's opaque or not. So I'm going to put false. The scale is 0. We put this into the drawing hierarchy. So draw. Once again, the in is bounds. So the border, or the drawing border of our paint view. We do all this after screen updates. So we put true here. And then our drawing image. So draw, which we defined up here, draw image. I can just copy that. Draw image is equal to UI. Graphics get image from current image context. So UI graphics get image from current image context. And then we unwrap that, then we end the context. So UI graphics end image context. Image context, that's what we're after, like that. So we're going to override the function touch is canceled. So touch is canceled right there. We have the override function, that's all done. Then I'm just going to write touch is ended. With our touches, retrieving from there, with event, retrieving from here. And that's the end of the function. Then a new function, we're going to get the midpoint. This is going to help us draw our Bezier paths. You have a starting point, and then you're drawing a curve, and you have an end point. So what it has to do is it has to figure out where the midpoint in the curve is, and then it's going to use that as a control to say, look, you're actually drawing a curve, not a straight line. Function, get midpoint from A, and then we're going to put in our A variable, and that's going to be a CG point. I'm going to put the word and B, and then our B value is going to be also a CG point. And it's going to return a CG point, like that. You guys remember how to do midpoints in math? Same thing. So we're going to return the value, which is going to be a CG point, and the x is going to be now our A point. So the x value from the A point, so A dot x added to the x value from the B point, so B dot x, and then we're going to divide all that by 2, averaging them. Then our y value, so comma, and then our y is going to be exactly the same thing, but for the y values. So I'm going to do the a dot y plus b dot y divided by 2, and that is going to give us our midpoint. And then finally, our drawing function. We override our drawing function. This gets called anytime we call sets needs display. The drawing function, I'm going to make it a constant, called the context. Think of it as like where you're drawing to, so what the drawing is made out of. So UI graphics get current context. That's not the right one. Get current context like that. The context unwrapped dot set allows anti-aliasing. Anti-aliasing, what is that? When you draw a line, it looks like a staircase. That's called aliasing. So this is without anti-aliasing. It looks kind of like a staircase. With anti-aliasing, it blurs it in so the line looks a little bit straighter. Set allows anti-aliasing right there, and we want this to be true, so we put in true. And we do the same thing again. So context set should anti-alias like that with true again. We can make it any color we want. I think this time I'll make it red. UI color dot red. Set stroke. So the stroke is like the actual, what you're drawing, the actual pen color and size of the pen and all that stuff. Set stroke. We're going to remove all the points from our path. So path dot remove all points before we draw it. So remove all points like that. Then we're going to define the path. So draw image. Draw in a rectangle. I don't know why that didn't come up on its own. In the rect is the rectangle of our paint view. Then we're going to say if not sample points is empty. So if our sample points, if there are any points in our sample points, then we're going to draw them. So if not sample points dot is empty, then we're going to draw them. All right, so I'm going to put an open brace bracket and a closed brace bracket gets drawn automatically. Here is the meat and potatoes of the whole thing. So path dot move, and so we're going to move to our first sample point. Two sample points dot first. We have to unwrap that. Path add line 2, and we're going to get the midpoints. Get midpoints from A, and our A is our first sample point. Sample points dot first unwrapped, and B is going to be our second sample point. Sample points. Remember, sample points is an array. So to get the second point from that array of points, we're going to go to 1. The first one would actually be 0. So instead of doing sample points dot first, we could have done sample points, and then we close all that. And then we have a little for loop. So what we're going to do is we're going to roll through that whole array, drawing all these points. So for, I'm going to make a variable called index, so EINDX, in 1 until we get to, while it's less than the sample points dot count. Okay, so the count is how many sample points are there from 1 until we get to that number. Count minus 1. Okay, so we're actually not getting to the last one there. And then we're going to have an open brace bracket and a closed brace bracket. And then we're going to say, we're going to make a new variable, let, or a constant, midpoint. And it is going to be get midpoint from, and our A value is going to be our midpoint, which is going to be our sample point, dot, now wherever we are within that array, so index, and B, which is going to be our sample point, index plus 1. So the next one, so index plus 1. And that's why we're going to sample points minus 1. Then we're going to add this point to our curve. So path dot add quad curve. So we're adding this to our quadratic curve. And we're going from our midpoint to our control point, and our control point is going to be the point that we're actually on, our sample points index. Like that. And this is the end of our for loop. And if you want, you can put a little comment, just because these brackets can get a little confusing sometimes. So I'm going to say end of for. We are going to add this line to our path. So path dot add line to our sample points last. And then we draw the line. Path dot stroke. Like so. And that is it. So let us save that. Check for any errors. We got an error up here. Oh, I put a dot here in front of the index. Sorry. So sample points index, there shouldn't be a dot. The next thing I need to do, I just need to make sure that in my main storyboard that we have here's our view controller. So in our main storyboard, this is our view controller. And so this is our view. And so it's a UI view. But we want it to say, look, we're not just using the standard UI view class, but we're using the class that we just made, the paint view. So I'm just going to go over to here. I'm going to change this to our paint view, which is right there. Let's try that out, see if it worked. And if it worked, we should be drawing in red. Ah, there it is. All right, so it totally worked. Oh, there is an error right there. You see when I When I go to draw something new, it connects it to my old point. So let's see what's causing that, because we don't want that to happen. If we wanted to continue from where we left off, we would have reconnected there, but we didn't. Okay, we're just missing a little bit of code. So when the touch is ended, like once we've ended, we've removed all the sample points. So sample points, points dot remove all. Remove all. Sorry about that. There we are. So let's save that and try running that. See if that works. All right, so it works great. And that's it for the drawing app. Have a good day.